I think we can probably get started here. We'll have a couple more people filter in. I was surprised how popular this one was. Everybody wants to talk about tax letters, so that's good. Um, if you haven't joined us before, I'll go through some housekeeping that I always do. Real quick, yes, we are recording this. So we will send you a recording. If you signed up, you will get a recording. Even if you're not watching right now, you are probably watching because we emailed you the link. So for all future webinars, if you can't make it at the exact time, sign up and we'll automatically send you the recording. Number two, when you have questions, Stacy and Austin are fantastic. They generally even answer them on the side as we go along. But put them in the Q&A button. Hit the Q&A button, type your question, that way it shows up on our screen. We also use the chat, but generally there's lots of chatter and we lose track of questions. So if you're wondering why we haven't answered your question, it's probably because you put it in the chat. So make sure to hit the Q&A button, put it in the actual Q&A, and we will answer it from there. We will send you slides as well. These usually take about 45 minutes or so. And then depending on how fast Zoom is at turning around the video, we'll get the slides out to you by the end of today or tomorrow morning. If you don't find them, there's a 110% chance it's because it's in your spam folder. They do go out. It's very reliable, but sometimes they get caught in your spam folder. So look there first, and then if you can't find it, ping me, and I will send you the link. Okay, Stacy, did I cover it all?
I think so.
We're good. All right, so background, if this is your first time joining one of our webinars, you get one slide about PSG and who the heck we are. So we are a fundraising consulting firm. That's all we are ever going to be. We have a wonderful group of clients. We love what we do. We run really modern, sophisticated annual appeals. That then turned into also providing Razor's Edge solutions and outsourcing because of all of our clients were on Razor's Edge. Many of them needed help to use Razor's Edge, so we started providing help in that way. And then through that, we ended up getting involved in this crazy world of fundraising automation, right? And so for all the clients on your screen, we ended up just doing fundraising automation. So we started out consulting, running really big multi-million dollar appeals. We still do that to this day. We got involved in automation. We helped all of our clients use automation. And then this whole automation revolution started. People started calling and saying, hey, we don't need consulting. We need you to build that automation I heard about. So that's what we've been doing ever since. We've actually created its own division. We call it Automate Genius. And this is what Stacy and Austin do day in, day out, is help people automate things like emails and tax letters and reports and all the annoying parts of running a fundraising office. You can automate them away. So you can suddenly click a button to do something that used to take you 2 days of grinding through Excel or whatever it was that you were doing. So happy to talk more about that. We do webinars every month. A lot of them of late have been about automation because that's what everybody wants to hear about. So we have links for you as well to previous webinars if you want to get an update on what is automation and just talking in general. And then we have specific ones as well. So today we're talking about tax letters. Before we do, I did want to promote, we do have a year-end giving guide. So this is something we do as well. We do a lot of free stuff, as you know. And I looked through the list of folks here. I think everybody's been on webinars before. So I don't think we have anybody new, but if you are, we do this stuff for free all the time. We love what we do. We have a great consulting firm. We have all sorts of cool software stuff going on. Our real passion is this. Every couple of weeks, we learn something. We share it with people for free. So we put together a year-end giving guide. If you want that, you can scan that. It's also available at pringersolutions.com. You can check it out. Great checklist and just helpful things for your nonprofit as we enter the most critical months of the year. Stacy, do you know the stat about what percentage of giving happens in December?
I do not.
Oh,
I'm gonna guess 65%.
Austin, what do you think?
I think it's really high. Just like thinking back to past orgs, like almost a third of the giving came in directly in December.
It is. I wonder if anybody on the chat knows it for sure, but it was like 35 to 40% comes in December, and then of that, it's like 70% of that comes in the last like 2 or 3 days of the year. It's crazy how much year-end giving impacts a nonprofit. So make sure you're all squared away from that. And honestly, there's a lot of them out there too. Like you can't swing a dead cat now without finding a year-end giving guide or something out there. So take advantage of all the free stuff. We try really hard to make sure it's valuable and useful to folks. Okay, so with that, let's dive into the topic today. As you have questions, make sure to hit the Q&A button and we'll answer them. This is always, always, always very informal, very open. We will answer your questions as they come up. So please make the most of this. We just want to share what we've learned. So fundraising automation. If you attended our big demo on, I think it was October 8th, we did one after BBCon. I gave a good analogy to fundraising automation. I'll share it again. The best way to describe fundraising automation is this children's book called The Shoemaker and the Elves. The story, I probably don't need to tell it to you because you've probably read it before if you haven't read it to your kids. There's a husband and wife, and they make shoes, but they were overworked, right? They had limited staff, they were overworked, they couldn't catch up, they weren't making any money. Their system was brutal, and they were about to give up. So what they did was they went to sleep. They said, well, we're going to give up tomorrow, but they went to bed. And overnight, what happened was this magic happened. They had a bunch of elves that came into their home and they made shoes for them. They took all of the work off of their plate and they made these wonderful shoes. And fundraising automation is like that. Only the elves in this case are Stacy and Austin, who do not break into your home at night to do your work for you, but they do work overnight and take all of the hard stuff off of your plate. So that is what fundraising automation is. Taking the your daily grind of the work that you do day in, day out, you can automate it so that overnight it just runs, and then when you show up in the morning, you can just do the fun stuff, which is talk to people, connect with your donors, do the important things instead of all the boring stuff. We have built a whole bunch of different automations. They generally fall into one or two buckets. The bucket on the left is to raise more money. So think of automating emails to your donors, right? Stewardship emails or delighting your donors, or automating a live hunt process, right? To follow up with people who haven't made a gift in a little while. That's the type of automation that can raise you more money. And then there's the type that can save you from the grind of being a database administrator at a medium or large nonprofit, right? Automations that can churn out a report that used to take you 2 or 3 days, and now you can do it with a click of a button. That is the sort of automation that we're talking about today. Okay, so it's either automations to help you raise more money and delight your donors, or automations to make this life that we've all chosen a little bit more bearable, to take the grind out of it. So today we're talking about tax letters. Okay. Austin, what do you think about tax letters? You've been working in nonprofits for a long time. Is this something you always looked forward to? Tell me, what's the vibe around tax letters?
No, this was like a second week of January. You're already buried with all the annual turnover work, and someone reminds you you have to send these out in 2 weeks, and you know it's going to take you hours upon hours to get it done. No, it's not something I've ever looked forward to.
Nobody does. Don't trust anybody who tells you they like this. It is because this is like right. It hits at the time that you're switching over all your campaigns and funds to the new year, and you're reorganizing, and you're getting through the crush of gifts and everything. So let's start. Let's start with why, right? Why is it always the second week of January? Let's talk about the requirements, and then we're going to talk about the way that you can run tax letters, Stacy, within Razor's Edge. Like there's tools you can use right now, and then we're going to talk about how we've automated it and what that looks like. Okay. All right. So I'll take the first part. Why do we send tax letters? We send tax letters because we are required to do so by the IRS. Stacy, Austin, do you know the threshold gift amount that you have to send a tax letter?
It's
It's
250,
That's
right?
right. 250 for a cash gift. And I learned this last night as I was preparing. Or I think if it's 70, there's also a $75 threshold if there's like some benefit attached or something like that. So 250 is the one we're going to worry about today. Okay. So all contributions to your organization of $250 or more, you have to send them something. And what that something is here. You have to send them. And this is in the statute, right? The IRS regulations. What you send them has to have your organization name on it. It has to have either the amount of cash that was contributed or a description of what they gave. Okay. And if it's a description, your job is not to put a value on it. So if somebody gives you a painting, you say you donated a painting of a dog playing poker. You don't say a painting worth $3,000 because that's, again, getting a little bit complicated, but that's not what you do. You just send the description. For our purposes today, let's just talk about cash contributions. Here's our organization. Here's the amount of cash that you gave to us. Here's the statement that we've all read 1,000 times that no goods or services were received. There, you got no benefit for making this donation. And the description is a good faith estimate, yada, yada, yada. Again, statement that there's nothing provided in return for this and everything else, right? So this is just tangible, intangible benefits. This is just saying you made a gift. It was not a transaction. It was not a business deal or anything like that. You just made a gift. And here's us acknowledging that so that you can then write that off on your taxes, okay, if you itemize. And you need to send this to the donor per IRS regulations by January 31st. Those are the rules, okay? Those are the rules that we all live under. That's the requirement. there is a link there, and I have it on the slide, and we can even put it. You can get the slides afterwards, or we can put it in the chat. But if you want to know more about that, the IRS has wonderful documents, right? They have little manuals just for charities that are written in plain English. So you don't have to go read through regulations and statutes. But the gist of it is, by January 31st, you got to send everybody over 250 a statement that says you gave to us. So inevitably, what happens, as folks know, if you work in a nonprofit, is that January 1st rolls around, and all of your donors who look like this, because the average donor is 68 years old, the average donor will always be 68 years old. There's no such thing as a young donor. That's for another webinar. Your donors wake up in the morning on January 1st and they want to start doing their taxes. That's just how it works. So then they start calling your nonprofit saying, "Where's my tax letter? I can't believe you haven't sent it yet," right? It's January 2nd. I need that itemized list because I love doing taxes and I love itemizing my deductions. So that's what happens. So your phone starts ringing and you're annoyed because you're trying to get them out and your data's a mess and you're doing all this stuff and your phone's ringing, people want the tax letters. Why are they such a pain? Stacy, I'll start with you. So this is an open question. I don't have a slide for this, but like why, Austin said a little bit, but like why is it a pain to do tax letters?
I think my biggest thing about it is that the volume is just so high, right? You're sending a letter to probably everybody that you received a gift from this year, right? So it just ends up being thousands and thousands of people. It's not something that you can just sit at your desk and fold a couple of letters and stuff them and mail them. It just is bigger than usual.
Everybody from the entire year worth of gifts you've got to tackle. Austin, what else? Why is this a pain in the butt?
The way I did it before was I didn't use the tools in Razor's Edge because we wanted to include like additional information, like we wanted to include the reference field. And so in order to do that, you had to do, word merges. So it was, a week and a half of just staring at a single Excel spreadsheet, hoping that all your calculations are correct and that the merge is going to be successful.
Yep, and data manipulation. So that's right. So I mean, for all of our consulting clients, again, when we're doing sort of the multi-million-dollar appeals, we don't like to send a boring tax letter. We like to send a letter that says, "You are an incredible donor and we appreciate you so much. And thanks again for all the stuff you did. By the way, here's your contribution statement." But like, it's such a missed opportunity if you're using it as a boring old, canned receipt. You should be writing a personalized letter. So of course, that's the bane of every database administrator's existence, right? Somebody like me that says, let's not do the thing where you can click a button and use the pre-formatted thing. Let's do something different, right? And all that has to be done inside of Word and pulling stuff into Excel. But it's also the aggregating, right? So it's soft contributions, right? Like spouse gifts, like making sure your data is correct. Invariably, pulling this is when you notice all the things that are wrong, right?
Yes, 100%.
And your data may not be set up the right way, and all what we would call tech debt, like all the things that you wanted to get through throughout the year to clean up funds and gifts and merge, this donor is actually this donor and all of that stuff. You never get it done, and then tax letters come around and it's just staring you in the face, and you have to tackle it then. So that's why this is such a popular webinar, is because everybody's they've been around the block, they know this is coming up, they want an easier way. So Stacy, walk me through the canned solutions. And when I say canned, we're talking here about Razor's Edge. Again, we have no dog in the fight. We are, Pringer Solutions Group is the largest user of Razor's Edge, I think, on the planet, because so many organizations have outsourced it to us. So we know the most about Razor's Edge, but there's also solutions. There's Salesforce, there's Bloomerang, there's Virtuous, there's lots of other nonprofit CRM software. We talk about Razor's Edge because it's what we know and it's what most of our viewers use. So what is it? I'm going to stop sharing my screen. What is available, Stacy, out of the box? If you're using Razor's Edge, how can you do tax letters without any fuss?
All right, well, let's look at Razor's Edge database view. First, this is still around for a little while, but if you go to report, financial reports, annual statement report, you can run this little guy, and you can do this for a one-off donor if somebody calls you like on April 14th and needs something, right? You can run this for one person, or you can do your whole query of everybody or whatever, right? This works like a normal Razor's Edge report. You select the correct date parameters. I'm going to do this calendar year just for an example. So we'll pretend it's 5 o'clock on December 31st. And then when you preview this, you can't really make many changes to this. Like Austin was saying, they wanted to include the gift reference and you can't do that. So this is basically what it looks like. It gives the donor's name and address. It lists all of their gifts, and then it has a total, and it has, you know, it has separate columns for the amount of the gift and the receipt amount, because like some of these were event related gifts, right? So the amount was 10,000, the receipt amount is 5,000, and then it totals that up for you.
You can also edit the bottom of the report. Like if you need to put that goods and services statement at the bottom, you can include that. And it has receipt number for like folks and our Canadian friends that need that as a part of their process. So that's good too.
Yep. And when you do this, like I think the way a lot of people use this is they would do a whole batch of these, they'd be sorted in alphabetical order, and then they would do like a cover letter that would go along with it, and then they would sit there and collate things and stuff them into envelopes, right? So letter for Roy, statement for Roy, stick everything together and mail it.
Which sounds pleasant.
Yeah, super fun. Especially if you have thousands and thousands of donors. So the new WebView version is super cool. You can do the same thing. You can do one at a time, or you can generate for a whole list of people. And the cool thing about it is that you can send it out in an email, which is kind of awesome. So here, I'm guess I can do this. So we can search for our constituent, same scenario. It's April 14th, and he realized he doesn't have his tax statement, and he calls you. You can come here and say, I want last calendar year, or I want this calendar year, and then click send, and it will send him an email. And I think you design that email in the email designer part or email marketing section of Razor's Edge, and then it attaches the giving information. And this will also create a PDF, and I'll show you what one of those guys looks like. I think this is the Roy Count one. And I don't know what these look like if you do these as a batch. I don't know if it puts it all into one giant file that you print, or if it puts it into individual files like this. But this is what this looks like, which I think is really nice, honestly. It has a fund summary down here. It has the same information as the other statement, right? Gift type, date, gift amount, contribution amount over here, fund, receipt numbers, receipt date, and then the summaries here. So I think this looks nice. It's not customizable, right? You can change this and that's it. But if you, yeah, if your database is small or if your needs are simple, save yourself some trouble and use this 100%. One thing about the WebView statements, it currently only includes cash gift types. So cash gifts, pledge payments, and recurring gift, pay cash. So if you have a lot of gifts in kind, stock gifts, those kinds of things, those are not going to appear here. So just something to be aware of.
So like most things, and I mean that's as good a lead into automation as anything. Like it's an okay out of the box solution, right? Like if you have your simple nonprofit cash gifts, you can run it, you're probably fine. If you have in-kind gifts, stock gifts, other stuff like that, that's when things kind of break down, when you have to get a little more elaborate, or if you want a better looking document, or you want to write a letter or something like that at the top, or you want to put your logo in there or do any of those other things, that's when things get a little bit sticky. Is that fair?
Yep.
Okay.
And Annie's making a point in the chat that Blackbaud says you can't use the giving statement as a tax receipt. And it's because of that, it's missing your tax statement.
It's missing the like, this is no goods or services have been used.
Yep.
For this gift.
And I don't really know why they built it that way, because that is what you need for a tax statement. So
it gives you the essence of a tax statement without actually being the
right.
I have heard of some people like doing the giving statements through WebView and then using a PDF editor to add in the missing like stock gift or add in that statement at the bottom. So they're finding a way to make it work. But to me, I don't know if I would use something that I have to go in and edit hundreds of PDFs, right? I would rather just have a solution that does it for me.
That's what we call a segue, Austin. Well done. So let's talk about what that looks like. So just to summarize before, there's two things out of the box, right? Canned things you can do. Stacy showed annual giving statement from database view. WebView has giving statements. with some limitations, which we can either be super annoyed at Blackbaud that like it always seems like something is like 3/4 baked, but like not all the way. I also want to give them some grace because I also know Blackbaud works with lots of different organizations and they're trying to, do the best, but everybody has nuanced needs. I would argue that the required tax language is more than just a nuanced need. It's probably something that should be in there, but I get it. So here's the good news. Automation, right? So Blackbaud Razor's Edge is used by 10,000, I believe, nonprofits. Everybody uses it. Thanks to automation, these whole things that used to frustrate you beyond belief, you can now solve, right? You can solve them in a way that fits your organization, and you don't have to deal with the clunkiness anymore. You can just automate it away and make life easier. Austin has been working on this for a very long time in a whole bunch of areas. So Austin, talk to us about what does it look like to automate these year-end tax statements. So not using the canned stuff that Stacy shared, not printing off a letter and then having to stuff it in with, the invoice. How can you automate this? What have you done? What would you do if you were in an organization?
So this is a good look at, Roy gives us a lot of gifts in our sandbox, if you didn't know. But this is some of his giving, how it looks in web view versus database view. And what the automation is able to do is collate all of this information for you. You can have it run automatically or through a custom tile like this. So this custom tile is going and pulling all the constituent lists that are currently in your system.
So when you say custom tile, you're saying I'm at an organization, I'm at a college or a hospital foundation, I go into WebView, I see a little tile there, and I can do this drop down that says I want to run tax letters.
Yeah, so this is a part of an automation. It's like the forward facing portion of it, where your office can have a little bit of control about when this process starts.
Okay.
And you have a few options for your giving statements. So you could have one where the automation lists out all like each gift in a single year. I think the coolest part about this is, you'll end up, when you did the merge in Word, you would have to go through and like delete out blank rows. You don't have to do that. It's fully customizable. It knows when to add a new row and not to add, it's not a set table. It's adding rows for each gift.
Can we pause there for a second? Because that's a big deal that I think people need to understand what we're talking about here, because that is it's a huge deal. So if you're going to do this in merge, right? If you're just going to say, well, I'm going to pull everything to Excel and then I'm going to have my Word template and I'm just going to do a mail merge because I'm great at mail merges, what you're going to end up with is somebody with one gift and a giant empty table, or you're going to end up with somebody with a lot of gifts that it doesn't know what to do with it because there's not the big enough table and it looks wonky, right? So this automation solves for that.
Yeah, in a past life, I used to merge annual statements based on the number of gifts that someone had, so that I wouldn't end up in a scenario with one gift on a 7-row table.
Yep.
But yeah, that was a huge pain. But yeah, so the automation automatically accounts for that. So really, there's very limited editing you need to do on the final output of things. And then on the right here, we have the option of a giving summary. So this just summarizes, this is summarizing based on campaign, but you could also summarize it based on fund or appeal or a combination of all three. And then it totals it for you at the bottom.
You gave $3,000 to our athletic scholarship fund and you gave $100 to the arts and sciences or whatever it might be if it's a college or university. Is it are there limitations? Is it safe to say, Austin, if I'm an organization and I want a specific year-end tax letter, right? I have something in my head, I want it to be done that way. Can automation do it? Like if I can think of it, can you get it done in automation?
Yeah.
Awesome. Unqualified. So there's your answer, folks. So if you can use the canned reports and they do your job, great. If you need something more than the canned reports, automation is the way to do it. What about, can you email this out? So we know you can print letters. Can you also build a flow that emails this out to donors?
Yes. And you have some options there too. The most common one we see is folks wanting to put it as a PDF attachment. But if you wanted to have it listed in the body of the email, that's also possible.
So this could say, Dear Mr. Kent, thank you for your gifts. Here's a list of your gifts last year, and it just has it right there in the email.
Yeah.
Awesome. The question everyone is frantically typing into their chat right now is, can you save it to a donor's record once it's sent?
Absolutely. You can
Awesome.
save the email as an action, and you can save the PDF as an attachment to the donor's record. So if
So
they, like Stacy's scenario, right? They call you on April 14th and they say, oh my gosh, I can't find my statement. All you have to do is go to their record in WebView, click to open the PDF, print it out, attach it to an email, whatever works for you.
awesome. Let me go ahead.
Catherine Ranyan asked about that in the chat about the WebView version. I do not believe those attach to the record when you send those WebView giving statements. So no. So if you do the Razor's Edge ways, it does not. If you do automation, you can make that happen.
One more reason to do it through automation rather than the canned option. What about a question from Kathy here, Austin? She said, if somebody doesn't have an email on file through WebView, is there an easy way to identify those that need printed mail? So this is a great question. So like, you have some emails. You have, if I'm looking at this as I want to save money, I want to email it all the tax statements that I can email, and I want to just print the ones I don't have an email for. How do you do that?
So the automation can account for that automatically. You can decide what email you want to use, or what combination of email you want to use, like whatever convoluted logic you want to apply to that, and then everyone else gets just a Word file where that can all be in one Word file, not separate ones. And then you can just print them off and, collate them like you normally would in a previous time.
Awesome. And this also work. I mean, you can do that too if you outsource your gift acknowledgments, right? Like you send it to a mail house or something. You can
Yeah, you could feed that into that process.
feed it into that and just say this is a cost saving, right? So there's all sorts of automations we do that make life easier that you will never get to your organization because you can't quantify a cost savings to a boss, right? Like you're like, this would make your life 100 times better, but unless you can say it's going to raise us more money or save us, like they're not going to prove it. This is something that will get approved because you can look at what you're spending on printing these things and the hours that are spent collating or using a vendor for it, and you can quantify and say, we're going to save $7,000 by emailing these out to donors. And if someone happens to not get the email, it's saved on their record, and we can just, when they call us, we can print it off and ship it to them right away. Okay. There's a couple other questions I'm going to save to the end here. I want to talk through so that what you've built here, right, through automation. And we're going to talk about where you get started if you want to automate things. We're going to answer a ton of questions a little bit. But this process really of taking all the gifts and consolidating it down is an easy way so I can send Roy Kent a nice, packaged letter. This same concept applies in other areas you've automated, right? Like I'm thinking of the things we talked about at BBCon. So talk to us about that. Talk to us about like, this is similar to what you've done for tributes, right?
Yes. So this takes the standard acknowledgement process and makes it a little bit easier for orgs that have a lot of tributes.
So what is the process? So do the same thing for me. Like walk me through this. Like how are people doing tributes right now and why is it painful? And then let's show what automation can do.
Well, they're going to the donor letter acknowledgements and they're exporting out a file, then they're running either a series of word merges or like a complex shell document merge to account for different letter types. Then they're editing those because Razor's Edge can't account for DAFs not needing tax information, right? So you make it through all of that, you print them off, and then you basically repeat the process, but you're doing it for honor memorial acknowledgements.
Yeah.
Whole deal, print them off, and then, we have a client we're working with right now that then has their gift processors put the donor letter and then all the associated tribute letters after it into a pile to then hand off to someone. And this takes so much work to match up all the tribute letters with the right donor letters, right?
So just like tax letters, this is something like if all of that described you, right? If you're nodding your head feeling like I feel seen for the first time ever, as Austin describes this, it's the same thing, right? As the tax letters is just a natural extension of that, where you can create an automation flow, right, that does this for you. Is that what we're talking about?
And like with the tax letters, you can also put a custom tile in your database so that these can be run by a staff member whenever they want, or we prefer them to be automatically scheduled. But the best part about this is the end file that you get has the donor letter and the tribute acknowledgement already collated together in the final output of your merged letters.
Awesome. Awesome. So it just makes life easier, right? If you can describe, the way you guys have talked to me as connected in the past has resonated in that if you can describe the steps you go through, right, then you can automate it. Like if you can describe, here's what I need to have happen and here's the orders, if you can write that out, you can create a fundraising automation that serves it up for you in an easy way. Same way about post-event letters, and then we're going to talk more about how you set up automation. We're going to get to Q&A. So post-event letters, I know are a big deal. The old way, right, producing letters by gift, which is annoying, versus producing letters by constituent. Awesome. What are we talking about here?
These are very similar to the year-end tax statement in that you can summarize giving based on constituent in one statement, right? So Roy Kent was very generous at this year's gala. He's very generous all around. And what we're able to do is automatically send him a statement that lists out where he contributed to the event, what benefit was included in that, and then the total tax deductibility.
So if you did the canned report out of Razor's Edge, it's going to send Roy Kent 3 different letters and spit them all out. Automation gets rid of that step and just consolidates it and is smarter about it and sends them a single document like this, right?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay. All right. So that is fundraising automation, and this is either life-changing for you if you're on and you've done this sort of thing before and you've worked in a database, or if you're new to Razor's Edge, you're like, what's the heck am I watching right now? Why? What words is Austin using? I don't understand any of this. So hopefully it's in the life-changing variety. Let's talk about how this is possible. So Stacy, we at PSG have been doing automation for I think 3 years now. We started when Razor's Edge told us they're building a connector. We started doing automation for our clients. It was huge. It blew up, and then we just started doing automation on its own for a bunch of people. If somebody on this call wants to get started, what do they need to know? Like, what is the do-it-yourself kit here?
So Power Automate is a Microsoft product. You might already have access to a free version of it. And basically Power Automate then can connect through a certified connector, can connect to your Razor's Edge, and then can connect to all of this other stuff. So these systems that normally wouldn't talk to each other now can. Power Automate does require a premium license if you're going to use Razor's Edge connectors inside of it. So you will need to buy a license. So the first step to that is make sure that you have nonprofit status with Microsoft. You probably do. Check with your IT department. And if you don't, register for it. It's very easy to do. And then the Power Automate license itself is very, very reasonable. It should be less than $4 a month. And if you're a Google organization, you could use this also. We would recommend getting yourself one Office 365 license because it just makes some of those like mail merges a little bit easier if you're working in the Microsoft universe, but you also could do almost all of this with just Google functionality also.
So the do-it-yourself thing, and like Carlene mentioned with the Sky API and low-code development. We talk about low-code development. In this case, we're talking about this, right? Power Automate is the engine of this. Power Automate is the glue. It's the thing that connects to Razor's Edge and it connects to Office, or if you're a G Suite, that we can make that work as well. But Power Automate is what you're learning. So you're going to spend $4 a month for your organization. That's going to be the automation engine, and then you're going to learn how to connect it to Razor's Edge, and then you're going to learn how to connect it to do the things you want to do. And after a whole lot of trial and error and figuring things out, you will be blown away by the stuff you can do. You can do all the stuff that Austin shared here, creating tax letters and creating post-event letters, and even the things that we've talked about on other webinars, like automatically drafting emails for your major gift officers to their donors based on whether it's their birthday or if it's a Libund or if they doubled their recent gift to the appeal. Like, it's incredible what you can do through Automate. It's cheap to buy, right? $4 for a Power Automate license. A little bit more complicated to do. I mean, so Stacy, how long have you been doing this for?
I think almost 4 years, so a long time.
And before that, you'd never done anything in
I had never touched any of this. So before that, I was strictly a Razor's Edge person. So yes, any of you on this call are more than capable of this, but it has definitely taken me 4 years to figure it out to the point that I'm at now. So,
which is probably annoying to everybody. When you're on the like Razor's Edge user forum and someone's like, how do I do this? And we're always like, oh, you could automate it. And they're like, they just want to smash their keyboard. They're like, yeah, but I don't know automate. Like, how do how do I do all this stuff?
Yeah.
I had a couple other slides, and there's templates, and again, if you want to do it yourself, like, so those are your options. So I want to be clear with everybody, like, if this excites you, right? If you love the idea, like if you're like a Stacy or Austin, and you're like, I love designing flowcharts, I love process, I love figuring things out, you need to dive into this, right? Come to our webinars, we'll always tell you the stuff we're working on, and go build stuff yourself. Become a citizen developer. It's going to be amazing. You're going to love it. If that doesn't describe you, right? If you don't like building things, or if you just want to dip your toes into this, right, and have somebody alongside you, we can build your first automation for you. That's what a whole bunch of organizations are doing. We used to, Stacy, on these calls, have a guy named Andrew Menke who joined us. He's not on the call today because since October 8th, when we did the last webinar, he's been on the phone every minute of the day with clients who are like, will you please build this automation for us? So we can build your first automation. We will build it on your tenant. So the way that it works is we will come in, and if you want us to do like a post-event letter, or you want us to automate some report, Stacy and Austin and our team will build it for you. It'll be on your Microsoft license. You own it. You control it. You have access to it. We'll just build you the first one you can watch, and then maybe you can go on from there and manage things on your own. If you want us to do that, and now we're going to get to Q&A, but I just want to give everybody the option. If you want to do that, the way to get to that is to schedule a call. Schedule a call with us. That link there will go to Andrew Menke's calendar. He'll spend 20 minutes with you. He'll ask what you want to automate, and you'll say everything. And then he'll say, all right, well, let's prioritize, right? Do you want heartfelt emails to your donors, or do you want tax letters, or whatever it might be? So go ahead. I'll leave that on the screen for folks that want to. We're happy to build your first one. And then you can take it from there, or we're happy to build all of them for you if you want us to keep going. Questions. Austin, is there any that you wanted to jump into right away while everybody starts typing in their questions about tax?
I think we should circle back to the beginning again. There's a couple questions about like, should you do this if you already send out a tax letter for each individual gift? Like, is it necessary to send out a statement at the end of the year?
Yep.
Paul's
Okay.
opinion might be different. Mine is it's a courtesy, right? So if I give multiple donations to any organization throughout the year, I'm not so good at keeping track of all the individual letters that are sent.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's helpful for me to just get a statement that says, here are the 6 gifts that you made, to my university throughout the year, or to the school I went to, that sort of thing.
So I love that question, and I'm surprised. Like, there's a bunch of people in the Q&A that are like, "Hey, we do them as they come in," which surprises me. We don't see that a whole lot, and I think it is maybe the sophistication of clients that we work with, and I don't mean that in a negative way, like the size of the clients we work with.
Yeah, they're just dealing with a lot of gifts.
It's a donor service, right? Like if your donors do your taxes in January, and it's helpful for them to get a single document and say, "Here's all the gifts that you've made to this university or hospital or whatever it is at that time." They probably haven't kept the receipts. In terms of legally what you need to do, you don't need to. If you are sending that, if it's a gift above 250, that's a threshold. And if you're sending it, they make that gift in March, you send them a thank you letter in March, and it has all of that language that's on there, you're covered. You don't need to do them again. So don't feel like your organization is breaking the law if you're not doing them. Most people do as a courtesy, and also because most of the time, that first thank you letter, right when they make their gift, is not all the formal language of EIN number, blah, 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 and your no goods or services. They want it to be a more heartfelt touch, which is like, you're incredible, thank you so much, we're going to use your gift to feed the homeless or something like that. So that's a question. Amy had a question on here. Is it a one-time gift of $250 or cumulative of $250? So like, let's say somebody makes a gift of $100, and then another gift of $100, another gift of $100 throughout the year. I believe, and I'll check this and confirm, Amy, and I'll email you if it's different. I believe it's the regulations say a contribution of $250 or more. So I think it's just a one-time gift. I don't think you owe them one if they've made a bunch of smaller gifts that add up to more than that. But in practice, I would absolutely send them one. Like, I would absolutely do it anyway. But legally, I don't think you're in trouble if they make a bunch of lower level gifts that add up to more than $250. Someone could correct me if I'm wrong. I am an attorney. I haven't done tax law in a long time.
I think you're right, and I would add to that to say that if, in the very least, I would send a year-end tax statement to your recurring gift donors.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, question from Harvette. Is Razor's Edge similar to Virtuous? Stacy, do you want to handle that?
Razor's Edge and Virtuous are both donor management software, so they are similar. Virtuous actually has some really cool automation tools built inside of it. So if you are using Virtuous, check those out. I have not checked for year-end tax statements in there, so I don't know what Virtuous has in that line, but lots of cool things. And I believe that Virtuous has a connector to a program called Zapier, which is similar to Power Automate, but it's just another kind of connector type program with a low code workflow builder. So those are things to look at there if you're in Virtuous.
And we always share. So again, so any software that you use to manage your nonprofit giving, right? Virtuous, Salesforce, Razor's Edge, and Bloomerang, Little Green Light, Neon, all Salsa, all the ones that are out there. Most of them are going to be sophisticated enough now to have it built on what we call with API, built for the cloud, built to do stuff like this, to be connected to other software. Razor's Edge, we talk about a ton because it's the biggest. It's the one we know the most about. Again, we started as Razor's Edge experts and then became automation experts. So we talk about it a bunch. But if you're not on Razor's Edge, go check it out. Like you should leave here inspired thinking, I want to automate things to the moon. Go talk to your provider and find out if they have an API connection to Zapier or Power Automate or anything else. But the reason we talk about Razor's Edge is just that's where our clients are. That's what we know the most. Question from Peggy that says they always send recurring donor statements. Oh, sorry, it's not a question. It's a compliment. She said, "Thank you. It's a pain, and this webinar has been very helpful." Peggy, that's so nice of you. Thank you for doing that. Yeah, we're happy we could help. There's a question in here about other automation. So tax letters we've talked about. Stacy, what are the other popular automations that you guys are working on day in, day out with clients?
So the one you mentioned before, gift notifications and or draft emails is probably our most popular thing. We can say find all the gifts added yesterday and send an email to their solicitors saying you got gifts from these people, you need to make phone calls, or you got gifts, you need to send them an email, and here's a draft of the email for you. So tons and tons of possibilities there to increase some donor stewardship and get your donor information right to your gift officers in a very easy way for them to manage.
Yep. Austin, what about you? What else are you working on? What are you automating?
My favorite automations are always the ones that clean up the data for you. So we have some pretty cool ones built that we talked about at the BBCon session and the session we did earlier this month around email and phone cleanup. And just sort of staying on top of that as new phone numbers or new emails are added. The automation can either clean up specific use cases where there's like a procedure, right, of this if this happens, then these other things happen. Or it can send out a notification to just say, hey, you need to go put eyes on this record and do something with it.
Yep. I'm going to ask Rob. I bet Rob will share a link. So if today we're really just focused on tax letters, right? Like tax letters and kind of this year-end thing that everybody's focused on. If you want to see the other automations we can do, Rob's probably going to share the link there where we walk through all that. How do you have automation clean up your database? How do you have it help you with deceased records, the crazy stuff you can do? How do you have it clean up phone numbers? Tell me more about this email automation thing where I can like draft emails for my major donors. So we have a whole webinar on that. And I'm also going to do this. So I launched a poll. If you do want to know more about Automate Genius, let us know. We will try and find time. Andrew Mankey's crying right now. He's like, don't put that don't put that up right now. If you do want to know more, right? If there's something that's really killing you at your organization, and if you're using Razor's Edge, let us know. We can follow up and we can talk through options and all of that good stuff. So I'll leave that up there. Other things that we didn't talk about as we're on the topic of automation, Stacy, Austin, anything we haven't talked about that people need to know? Any other cool projects you're working on? Anything you want to do as I read through these Q&A here?
I think it's just like, think of the recurring processes that you do on a weekly, monthly, or annual basis, and there's a chance that that can be automated and you never have to think about it ever again.
Yep.
There's things that people have to do right before a mailing goes out, or giving societies, right? We're building a giving society workflow for a client that will just automatically keep the tags for their giving societies up to date. Right now, if they wanted to send something out that is for such and such society, they have to go run all their queries and make sure everybody's flagged correctly before they can do that, right? So automation can make it so stuff like that is always correct. It just is always right. And you don't have to remember to run your 16 queries to set up the giving societies before each mailing. They're just always done. So it just saves a lot of headaches and a lot of time.
Yep, love it. There's a question there, I think from Ryan in the chat about SOC 2 compliance. So SOC 2 compliant, this is about SOC 2 is really more related to software and technology, but similar would be like PCI compliance. I think the question is around like, can you email donor information like on their gifts? I can go back and check. I'm almost certain, level of certainty on the free webinar here. You're not including personal ID. You're not including the social security number. You're not including their phone number, their credit card number, anything like that. I think you're fine emailing out saying, hey, you are this person and you've donated this. If you're not, but it's a judgment call for you as well, not just yes, you're compliant legally. But if you're not comfortable with that, that's fine. Then just use the automation to print the letters and send them through the mail. We'd never encourage anybody to do anything you're not comfortable with. We know that about 80% of our clients email this sort of thing all the time. Thank you for your gift, right? If you went and made a gift online right now, you're going to automatically get a gift receipt that says your name is this and here's what you donated, right? Same as if you bought tickets on Ticketmaster or anything else. So I wouldn't worry about that, but if you want to worry about it, that's fine. Don't send email, just send it through the letters. There's a question, Austin, if you're new to automation, would tax letters be your first project?
No, and there's also not a template for it. That's an automation that we built custom, like from scratch, from an original idea, and then we built it out ourselves. If you're interested in starting with automation, Blackbaud has great resources for this, including Blackbaud University classes, and they also have in-person workshops around the country. I think there's one coming up in Atlanta in November. So those would be great places to go first. The sort of first automation to try is a gift notification digest.
Yes.
That's available in the template showcase. And that's always a good place to start.
Start easier. Start with an automation that says, I want to make my computer ding when somebody makes a gift in Razor's Edge. Like that should be the level of complexity that you start with and then build from there. And in 3 or 4 years, you will be like Stacy or Austin and you can do anything. And then PSG will hire you and we will have you do automations for our clients. And I sound like I'm joking. I'm not joking. We need more people building automations because we have tons and tons of stuff that we want to do for our clients here. Speed questions. Should you add impact language to the end of your letter? Absolutely. I think we did a webinar. Rob, this will be a deep cut if you can find it. I think 3 or 4 years ago, we did a webinar on like the world's greatest like year-end tax letter, like this exact topic, not from automation. Yes, every single thing you should do should be donor facing. It should make them feel special. It should show them that you know who they are. Never, ever, ever just send blank, boring old receipts. Finance office wants everything to look like accounts receivable, boring old receipts. Your development office should want everything to look like a handwritten, personalized note that tells the donor, I love you and you're incredible. Your job is to find the middle ground between the two. Maybe last question here, Stacy, I'll go to you. Katie asked a question about any suggestion about like how to make sure soft credits, household giving is clean. Any advice there, whether it's automation or something else about soft credits and ahead of tax letters?
Austin, let's go to you first on that. I think you've done that more recently than I have.
It's not clean. It's just
the answer is no. There is no thing
to
run a lot of queries.
It's a lot of queries and a lot of, I think when I was doing it manually in Excel, I would export out only hard credit and then I would look to the contact, right, to infer whether like someone else got credit for a business or a DAF kind of thing, and then looking at, matches across like spouse IDs to constituent IDs to figure out who should get credit for what, and then combine manually. There is some opportunities through automation where you can automate that combining, in an easier manner where it's taken care of for you. So if you wanted all spouse giving to be combined into one household, we can direct automation to do that for you. Same with DAF, or like a business owner should get credit for their business's giving. But unfortunately, there's no clean way to do it. It's a lot of workarounds. I really wish that soft credit in Razor's Edge had a type, right? Like when you're entering in a gift, you could say what type of a soft credit this was, and then that's something we could filter on. But that unfortunately doesn't exist, and so we end up in the world of manual manipulation and queries.
Yep, well said. So last plug. So if you found this helpful, and I know many of you do it because we do this all the time, and I love seeing all the same faces on here. Like we built a nice little community here. Make sure you subscribe to our newsletter. You will not get it that often, right? I think it's once a month at most, and generally it's like, here's a cool research project we did, here's a webinar we have coming up, or here's something you need to know. You can go to pringersolutionsgroup.com. I believe it's under resources. That's where you'll find all of our webinars. It's where you'll find any downloads like pledge card templates and sample fundraising ask letters and all sorts of stuff like that. If there's a webinar topic you want us to tackle, let us know. You can find all of our emails and everything on the web. You can shoot us a note when we send you the link to this webinar. We love hearing from you. Basically, this has been such a fun collaboration the last 3 or 4 years. So if you have questions, if you have stuff you want us to tackle, we will tackle it. But we're going to do it open and free for everybody to watch and follow along. So with that, look for the notes from this webinar and the slides and the recording. Those of you who said you wanted to learn more about Automate Genius, I'll ask Andrew Mankey to follow up and see if there's something specific you want to talk about. He can set a time to talk with you. And if you have any questions about anything, let us know. And with that, I appreciate all of you very much. Stacy, thank you so much. Thank you, Austin, for joining us. Thank you, Rob, for managing everything in the background. We'll see you on the next one.